Hi and welcome to assignment 1, and this assignment it is business case study for ICT sustainability. Now there are 4 major components in assignment 1. This unit also has a second assignment which we will discuss later. But staying on this first assessment, this is the reason why we are doing this. It is a review of existing documentation report. So implies the documentations are already written, so we're only going to review them, right? So in this task you will show your analytical skills to express in your own words the case study company overview, its reasons of being, and the current ICT infrastructure. You will also provide an analysis of the problem and challenges posed by the current ICT infrastructure and business system. You will also analyze the company's culture and attitude towards sustainability, as well as producing a stakeholder analysis report. What does that all means? Now, you can work on the case study if you so wish, but you are encouraged to work on your workplace, on an industry which you are familiar with. The case study is provided only as an alternative where an ICT infrastructure that is knowledgeable to you, it is, or that you have knowledge of, it's not possible. Okay, so then you will review this documentation which is published on TAFE Online. That is the case study, World Medic Corporations, and the proposal for network upgrades. There are 2 files that you need to get very familiar with. By this stage, if you have done the whole 4 subjects, you're doing the whole 4 subject for this course, you will have already got familiar with all the things that they are discussed here. So it will be you'll be better empowered and to go down and doing the doing. The next is compliance to energy standards. Now we have discussed the energy standards in 1 subject before this one, so therefore already you are familiar with the files which are available on WSI Online, which is the ISO on TAFE Online, I should say, on ISO 14001 environmental standards, and you need to prepare a compliance to energy standards report for the World Medic Corporation's management. Now you need to substitute World Medic Corporation if you are using any other company other than the case study. Okay, so and advising on what is required to obtain ISO 14001 certification. The next is sustainability integration to ICT planning. At this point in time, World Medic Corporation has decided to implement major upgrades to its inadequate ICT infrastructure. However, before making the go no-go decision whether to implement or not implement the changes that have been recommended or contemplated of, as you have seen while you've done the review of existing documentation, the World Medic Corporation's management has hired you to come up with a plan to integrate sustainability in ICT planning and design project. Now you will produce a strategic report recommending changes to the proposed ICT infrastructure upgrades to integrate new green technologies to reduce power consumption and thus lowering the carbon emissions. And next, you are now familiar on how to create a network diagram, and you will modify the proposed network diagram published in the proposed network upgrade document to show the integration of sustainability in ICT planning and design. As you have noticed, I have mentioned World Medic Corporation several times since the start of this video. And I'll say one more time that wherever you see World Medic Corporation, if you are working on a real network, substitute these names for the corporation which you are working for, and you are very much encouraged to work on your workplace. So let's go and start and have a look at the point number 1. How do we do review for existing documentation report? You need to write a 500 words document, plus there is a stakeholder analysis to be done, and here is the reading material that you need to consult: the World Medic Corporation case study, the World Medic Corporation upgrade, and the stakeholder management of page 9 of the reading material. Now, as you probably noticed thus far, that there is a lot of overlapping between all the 4 subjects that you are doing. But the overlapping is not there because it was meant to be there. It is because the delivery of this subject is done individually. One subject is, some of you may have recognition of prior learning on a couple of subjects, and you only need to do 2. The chapter 1 of your assignment is usually about introducing or reviewing an existing corporation. So if you already done it once, you can transport the information that you have previously created into this one. All right. So so you are not really repeating. You are only doing what you're supposed to do. Okay. So here we are looking at the task descriptions. The task you need to do, you need to read the World Medic Corporation case study if you are working on the case study, to produce a 500-word document named Review of Existing Documentation. The purpose of this report is to introduce the reader to the current state of World Medic Corporation by examining existing documentation, in this case the published World Medic Corporation case study. Your discussion is minimum as to address these 5 points here. Now, those of you who have already been familiar with the case study, you know there are lots of holes into this company. There's a lot of things to improve, so you don't have to be Einstein to find this. Just read the case study. Everything is very well documented. However, before I continue, I'd like to show you what it is here onto the special notes. The first point says the completeness, quality and relevance of your discussion will determine the assessment of your own research. Remember, you are now studying a vocational graduate certificate, so therefore good documentation is required for your assignment. The second point is this document is to be original work. You cannot copy and paste from the case study. You are required to show your understanding of the concept of reviewing existing documentation and be able to use analytical skills to produce original work. You will then use this knowledge in the next section of this assignment. So what we are doing here, it will be used into the next section when we do task number 2. Okay, so now, having well understood this part, right, now we will go and look at point number 1. Point number 1, it discusses 2 major points on which we want to discuss. First of all, you need to provide an overview of the corporation and its nature of being. For example, what does the company do to generate income, and also using data contained in the case study calculates the annual gross income, show all calculations made, and comment on the company's profitability. Wow. Now you may say, okay, it's well and good into the case study because the case study contains. This is why you are now compelled to read the case study. But if you're using on your own company, well, you go and look into the performance reports, into the official reports of the company. If you cannot come up with real figures, then you make assumptions. But you got to show how you made those assumptions, and you need to show how did you calculate. Now, in the case study, there is an entry that will allow you to understand how much the company is making or turning over. It's all in there. in the invoicing, how many invoices they, per day they actually invoice. So now this shows analytical skills. Now you need to go in there and read it and extract the information required. And point number 2, you identify the company's goals and objective is envisaged by the CEO Galen Wilson at the 2012 annual general meeting. Now in this 2012 annual general meeting, the CEO, Dr. Galen Wilson, he showed his vision. So now you need to interpret that vision and put it down into the company overview component of task 1. Next we got the ICT infrastructure overview. Now we have the first point, which says, and actually it's the only point, which says provide an overview of the current ICT infrastructure. Your discussion is to provide the general descriptions of what the company has in terms of ICT infrastructure and how it works. For example, DMZ deployment, standard workstation configuration, deployment of Windows Update Service, Windows Deployment Service, Exchange Service, Web Service, and so on. Now, if you have done this section, it is very similar on other assignments that you may have done. Do not reinvent wheels, all right? Just grab it from that section and you can paste it in here, and you just make the changes to customize it for your discussion. Next, point number 3, problems with the current ICT infrastructure. Now you need to discuss a problem and challenges that the current ICT infrastructure is facing with the current system due to the inadequacies of the ICT infrastructure. Well, you may be working on the state of the art. Let's say Google is your dream company to work for, right? They don't leave any stone unturned, but they still have hold, especially when it comes to security, right? And you don't have to target Google, target your own company. And all, even a company, if you work with a company which has about 5-6 IT support staff, including the IT manager and administrators and a support analyst, they will have a lot of problems with security. They will have a lot of problems with, in maintenance. They will have a lot of problems in every respect. Why? Because number 1, funding. Management is very tight with money and does not provide the funding for action. All the lesson learned through the downtime, it's only management usually acts only when it is obliged to. If they see that the system is down and it was down because of the lack of support, well, then they will act, because they don't want to find themselves into the same position again where the whole system is shut down for a day or two. And it surprises for you, but many companies don't even, update their own licensing for the antivirus systems, so that their antivirus is running on old file definitions where they will not be. They have been delaying to pay for licensing, and so therefore they were shut down from the updates. So these are problems that you need to identify. If you're working on the case study, there is no problem. All the problems are listed there into the case study. Next, you got a company culture, sustainability and company culture. In here, you will provide an initial assessment of the company's ICT sustainability culture and what policies do they have in place to maintain a sustainable environment. Now you may find that even some of your work colleagues, they will talk to you about the sustainability, that they read the labels, that they only buy products which are sustainable for the environment. They may buy all organic stuff. They will tell you all the bits and pieces of their life history, and they were ready to support. However, with all the good intention of your workmates, with all the good intentions of yourselves and the rest of your department, this sustainability culture must come from the above, must come from management. Management buys in. is what is going to help the corporation to make the change towards sustainability and towards a sustainable future for the corporation. So here you need to really examine and look at the sustainability culture and make an assessment. If you can find the whole information, you can make assumptions which they may reflect the real situation. So there is a point in here that you remember that attitude is an intangible thing. It describes how we think rather than how we act. In enterprises, it is largely about culture. It is necessary starting point. A desire to change is followed by a commitment to change, which is followed by action, which is followed by measurement of the effectiveness of those actions. Having a positive attitude towards ICT sustainability is very important. It precedes anything else, and as it is often the case in business, those attitudes are most effective if they come from the top. Management buy-in is an essential part of the ICT sustainability, as I've just stated before. You may look at the sky, it's a beautiful sunny day, and the corporation's got a flat roof, maybe with a space on the roof of many square meters. They could accommodate many solar panels, which they will generate a lot of electricity. Of course, it has to be a sunshine, not during the night, but you work during the day. So therefore, all the electricity produced could be used on site or sold to the grid. But management says, wow, it's going to cost $50,000 to do it. Why should I do it? I don't have $50,000 to spend. And yet you got people, they look at the sky, it's sunny, and they will even put a solar panel on top of their sheds in order to produce more electricity on site. And so it's remember that it's an attitude. It's not something that you can touch. It is intangible. So that's why this is what you need to be able to project the sustainability culture of your corporation. Next is the stakeholder analysis. Now, using as a guide the stakeholder analysis table located at page 7 of the Stakeholders Management Reading and Research file, produce the World Medic Stakeholders Analysis table that lists and describes the stakeholders identified in the case study. And you should include all the stakeholders you can identify, internal and externals. So then these are the files and the reading material which you need to consult to produce this task, review of existing documentation. You need to read the case study, you need to read the World Medic Corporation proposal network upgrade, and then the stakeholder management file. Now remember that if you don't work onto the case study and you are working on your own corporations, then you will need to substitute these documents with documents that are available for your corporations. And now we move to it's task number 2. And now we discuss about compliance to energy standards. This is a document, 500 words. Reading and research material is available on TAFE Online, and you will need to go through the ICT sustainability framework of chapter 4 of the base knowledge file for sustainability, and then the research of ISO 14001 standard. Now these are all available into the on TAFE Online. Well, now let's have a look what we need to do for task number 2. First of all, let's read the purpose. The purpose of this document is to establish what the ISO 14001 environmental standard is, how it works, and how it will assist World Med Corporation to be more environmentally sustainable, and how this standard can be used to integrate sustainability in IT planning and design projects. Now, you may already done some of this work on ISO 14001. If you did in another assignments for other units within this course, so therefore you can transport some of the or all of the information that you have previously produced into this section. So if you already done it, don't reinvent the wheel. If it is all original work that you have previously produced, there is no problem. Components are transportable from one unit to another, providing, as I said, it is original work. And you already done some of this within your other subject you probably have done before this one. Okay, this is the ISO 14001 environmental management system, which is available from WSI online. TAFE online. So you have here all the components. There is a good introduction of the standard. You will need to read all of this. Remember, it is a research, it's project driven, so therefore we cannot spoon feed you, so to speak. You really have to do a bit of work in order to put all of this together and answer all of these requirements. Although you may have done some other work in a previous assignment, you will need to comply with this assignment requirement. Alright, so you need to review Chapter 4 Sustainability Framework, which is on page 8 and 10 to 10 of the Sustainability Base Knowledge file. And you can even consult the library books to become familiar with the ISO 14001 environmental standard. So now you need to produce the 500 words compliance to energy standards report as follows. And you need to create this document in point form that advises the World Medic Board and replace World Medic's board with the board of the corporation you're working on, the board of directors, on steps to be taken by the corporation to comply with the ISO 14001 standards. So in other words, all you need to do here is to understand what the standards does, and now you are the advisor to the corporation to say this is what it needs to be done if you want to be certified by this standard. Okay, ISO stands for International Standard Organization. 14001 is the environmental standard. Okay, so provide number one. That's what you need to do. You need to cover these points in your 500 words. So 500 words is about a couple pages, so you will need to really work pretty hard and make sure that you really read this standard in order to comply. So you provide, first of all, an overview of the ISO 14001 environmental standard. This document is to be produced in view of a major infrastructure upgrade that integrates sustainability in ICT planning and design project. You provide a list of recommendations for the companies to deploy in view of ISO certifications. Now in this document here, you provide the overview, and you also say, whoa, these are all the things that you are not doing to comply. And then these are the steps that you need to do. You provide the list of recommendations to deploy that you need to do to comply with the standards. In other words, what we're aiming at is for you to really understand the ISO 14001 certification process. Then you document a conclusion. The document conclusion should address the consequences faced by World Med Corporation or your company if it fails to integrate sustainability within the upcoming major ICT infrastructure upgrade. So this is what happens. Okay, now that's the certification. If we do not certify, and that's not compulsory to be certified, by the way, but if we don't go onto the sustainability track in order that we reduce our carbon footprint, right? And that's always explained into the sustainability framework or things to be done, or chapter 4 of the ICT sustainability based knowledge file. So if we don't do this, where are we going to be? That's the question that you will need to answer. This is where we will be. All right? We will continue to be a company that does not care for the environment, and therefore people may not want to deal with us. There's a lot of people out there, they are environmentally conscious, and they don't buy goods unless they are environmentally friendly, right? And they don't deal with company which they have total disregard for the environment in which we live. So then there are a couple, please note here, you will not be able to complete this section unless you become familiar with the ISO 14001 standard. Consider the reading material and research file provided and research the internet, library books, technology journals to obtain relevant information for the standard. And second point is, once you understand what the ISO 14001 standard recommends, provide a list of recommendations for World Medic Corporation as described in the task description, which is here. Okay, well, we now move on to point number 3.